First race, Newmarket Saturday, this significant whirlpool day. It's all about the fillies, and we begin with the Premier Fillies Handicap, which is run over 2,000 metres, and it's run at the iconic headquarters of racing, the Rowley Mile course. It's the straight 2,000 metres. You can see that little dip as well, which does catch out one or two of the inexperienced horses. It is the iconic headquarters of British Flat Racing. These are the horses that run. Madame Ambassador was a winner on the card last year. She looks to win again. Lady Alara. There is Morning Poem. We go down to the likes of Totnes, Red Danielle, Whispering Words, who's very interesting indeed. And a bit further down, Prenup, Lady Boba and Aiming High. Delighted to be joined by both Martin Dwyer and by John Blance as well. John, we're going to start with you and get the thoughts of the Godolphin runner. The lightly raced up in trip, Whispering Words, when last seen at Kempton.
Yeah, well, there's definitely plenty of upside to her. There's no doubt about that. I know Martin really likes her. I'm less keen, not because I don't think she can win, but I just think that there's not maybe as much to this form as you might think in terms of the horse that's nearby here is a Gosden horse, Venus Rosewater. But the overall time wasn't particularly brilliant here. The horse in third is no great shakes, or at the moment doesn't look as actually as much great shakes. So there's clearly the potential of this horse to improve a lot, and Ryan Moore riding is very interesting, but I think there are others with more pressing claims for me.
OK, we'll see. But you do like her?
I do like this filly. I know the time was a bit slow on this occasion, but the track had been through some refurbishment work and was riding slow. And the winner here, Venus Rosewater, got the run of the race, and she made a lot of ground up Whispering Words. And I think the step up to 2,000 metres will really suit her.
Good stuff, Martin. I'll sit with you and get your thoughts of Red Danielle, who bolted up in a very small field race last time. Prior to that, she was second at Newbury. This was that.
Yeah, this was a really good second this day. I do like this filly. She travels really strongly. This was over to 2,000 metres, and she just came up against a really good filly here in Sweet Memories, who did go on to win a listed race and placed at Group 3 level. So Red Danielle did come out and win next time at Yarmouth. So I think there's plenty more improvement in it to come.
Yeah, I think so. Sweet Memories is now rated 105. Mammon June is rated 97. This filly's been rated 90, Red Danielle. She looks pretty well handicapped to me. Battles back really well here. This is obviously on very soft ground. It's going to be much faster at Newmarket on Saturday. But there's some decent, good ground form from her as well. I think there's plenty more to come from her. She's going to be my on-top selection. OK.
Interested to get your thoughts on Totnes, who we're going to see finishing second at Newbury just a couple of weeks ago. Talking of the ground, John, if it was softer, it'd be better for her, wouldn't it?
I think it would be. This is a really good run, though. If you look at the end of this race, she gets absolutely no luck at all. Gets knocked around a bit in the closing stages. She was in very good form prior to this. Yeah, the ground is a bit of a question mark. That's why I've refrained from putting her on top. I still think she'd be not too far away. PJ McDonald aboard. But yeah, as we get to the end of this race, you watch how she gets sort of more and more crowded up the rail. It stops her in her tracks.
OK, I think she's going to run well, but I do have that ground issue. What about you, Martin?
Yeah, she's a winner on the all-weather, and she's won on top of the ground, but I know her trainer feels that she's not ground-dependent. It will be quicker surface, but she was quite a bit unlucky this day, and yeah, there's more to come from her.
That was back on the 23rd of September at Newbury. On that same day, Newmarket were racing, and we saw Lady Alara finishing in second. She's lightly raced. I think she's running well at the moment, Martin. She steps up in trip on pedigree. You'd think that's a good thing.
Absolutely, because I think she's no match for the winner here. We see the Godolphin runner, Shining Jewel, was just that bit better than her. And actually, this filly, she drops back, Lady Alara. She drops back into fourth place in those pale blue colours. But you watch, when she comes out of the dip the other side, she really stays on well. So that extra 400 metres, will really improve her chances.
Yeah, certainly will. I think she's got a really good chance of being in the places. She runs with Madame Ambassador, would probably go forward as well. They're the two likely pace angles in the race. But they won't necessarily go a breakneck gallop, and they wouldn't want to be giving her a particularly easy lead. So she definitely goes in there for me.
Well, here we go. You teed it up beautifully, John. As ever, Madame Ambassador was a winner on this card last year over 2,400 metres. We'll be talking about that race later. They don't go for that race again. She's dropping in trip and continuing at 2,000 metres, the trip that she was successful over last time.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I actually think her form is better suited to this race that she's running in today. Although she won the mile-and-a-half race, her form's a bit more checkered at the mile-and-a-half, and it wasn't a particularly strongly run race last year. So I think here, if she gets into the lead or on the speed quite easily, they're not going very hard, she'll have plenty more in the locker in the closing stages, so she might be quite tricky to pass.
Do you think right race?
I think it's the wrong race. I think this filly, she's a grinder. She keeps galloping from the front here, and she's got plenty of stamina, but I think she lacks a turn of foot at this level.
It was a good appraisal of a number of the key participants for the first race on a big World Pool Day at Newmarket. Who's your 1, 2, 3, 4, John?
Well, I'm going to go with Red Danielle on top, number 6. I think there's a chance that the handicapper hasn't quite got to grips with it. I've got the 5 in there for second, Totnes, albeit slightly concerned about the ground. And then the top 2, I'm going to go with Madame Ambassador in for 3rd and Lady Alara in 4th.
Martin.
I'm going to go for number 7, Whispering Words at the top. I think she's at least a listed filly in a handicap, and the step up in distance will really improve her. I think Red Daniela bolted up last time. The handicappers not got hold of her. She's improving to be 2nd, with Lady Alara to be 3rd, and I think Totnes will put that unlucky run behind. I think she'll finish 4th.
OK, I'm going to go against all of you. Not mentioned once. The 2 John and Thady Gosden runners in the race is Queen Regent, but the one I like is Morning Poem. 2nd run back off a long absence. Cheap pieces go on. She's got unfinished business on the track, and I hope that we see that come Saturday. Can't wait for race 2. We've got the auction race. It's the big sales race, and it should be a big cavalry charge for the juveniles, 1,200 metres, as they thunder up the final stages of the Rowley Mile racecourse. By this point, as they hit that dip, it'll be finding out 1 or 2 of the lesser experienced rivals, I would say. But hopefully, we're going to see a good winner. We shall see. Right, they're headed by a Cuban slide. Zulu Chief will be talking about. We've got to. Commander Crouch is there. Midnight Runner might be a big player. We go down to the likes of Beanham and Wood Hay Wonder. A few of these we haven't got the ratings for. They're at the very early stages of their careers. Dubai Hills is there. Further down, Lieutenant Rascal, Majorelle Bell, and we go down to Grey Grey and Priscilla's Joy. Right, let's get the thoughts of both Martin Dwyer and John Blance. We'll start off with Zulu Chief. Why wouldn't you? This was a 2nd win within the space of not so long, when showing brilliant speed at York. A horse who went off at a monster price to win earlier in the season. Won't be doing that again. Is it a case of all hail the Chief once more?
I think very much so. Tip of the hat as well to Graham Cunningham, friend of the show. He was all over this horse at York that day. Got a really good start, incredibly fast early sectionals, and yes, was slowing down a little bit in the closing stages, but he was entitled to do that. The speed figure he ran that day would have been good enough to win every single renewal of this race historically quite easily. So I'm going to stick with that. I think he's going to be very, very difficult to peg back.
OK. I'll take a little bit of credit. I was with him as well on the day, but thank you, John. Zulu Chief?
I can't see him being out the 2, but I'm not sure he'll hold his form as well at Newmarket as he did at York. He went very fast at York. He's very quick, but then he just grinds it out late on, and I think he might get tired coming out to the dip at Newmarket. It's a completely different track. His sectional say he was slowing down in that VT from York.
I know, Martin, you like one in opposition. We're going to come to that horse now and, in fact, talk about a few of them as they were led home on Newmarket's sister course, the July course, which is meant to be run in the decent summer weather, although it wasn't at the back end of August. This is when Wood Hay Wonder was successful over a few of these. This race has worked out well.
It has, and if we watch this filly, she's getting a lead into the dip, and she has to jockey has to commit and go here on the far side because she's drawn 2, and all the actions unfold on the stands rail, and she's quickened and showed a really good turn of foot here, and I think that's what will win her the race at Newmarket. But you see, she quickens clear, and then she's had to do all her own running in front. That's a hard thing to do in a sales race like this. She's done really well. She's got a really wicked turn of foot.
And the good news for her as well, Martin, is that Drama and Lieutenant Rascal are also still in the race, and they're likely to go hard with Zulu Chief. So it will definitely set it up for 1 or 2 who are coming from behind, and she's one of the better ones in this race who'll be closing off. And yeah, to have won like that under those circumstances was a feather in her cap. She's on a 2nd line for me.
Midnight Runner, I think, is interesting. I'm a Zulu Chief fan, but we ought to talk about Midnight Runner, John. There are a couple of factors which I think make this horse interesting. One is the drop in trip. Another is the fact that he's so lightly raced. And a third is that we've got a well-bred horse on our hands here, haven't we?
Very much so. And here, this horse was taken back in the early stages over 7 furlongs at Thirst. Didn't get much of a run at all. You can see here is still running a little bit on the green side as well. I think a properly run 6 furlongs down a straight track is much better than 7 round the bend at Thirsk. So Midnight Runner is a definite potential in this race. Speed figure-wise, got a lot to find with Zulu Chief and indeed Wood Hay Wonder, but that's not to say this horse can't.
I think really interesting, and very much at the early stages of the career. Only 2 starts so far. It was a big price for the debut. Won't be a big price on this occasion. Beanham, who represents the Millman Yard. We're going to go back to the 22nd of July, in a race that they've traditionally had a good history with. Martin, is the Weatherby Super Sprint, and they were never going to beat Relief Rally on the day, but I think Beanham ran well when 6th.
Yeah, Beanham ran a good race this day. It was a rain-softened ground. Relief Rally was a group horse, far too superior for the rest, but he's ran well being him. I know John likes this horse more than I do. I think he's run twice into Wolverhampton in weaker races and been beat, but he does look to be a bit better on the turf.
Yeah, I think that's probably a fair comment. But if you look back at some of those turf speed figures, they'd be competitive in this. It's not a particularly deep renewal. Once you get past the top 2 or 3 in the market,
Agreed.
there are a lot of horses that really do have to improve a lot. So Beanham's got the turf form in the book. Not on a win line for me, but I think if you're going to go wider in the exotics, has to be considered.
It's a field long on quantity, perhaps less so on quality. I think it's top heavy in that regard. What do you think as regards your selections?
Well, I'm going to go with Zulu Chief on top. I think it's going to take a lot of beating. I appreciate what Martin's saying about being a bit tired in the closing stages, but he might be so far clear. I mean, Frankel's a bit tired in the closing stages of the Guineas, wasn't he? But if he's far enough clear, I think he's going to be difficult to peg back. Would Hey Wonder, I think, will be in there for second. Got Beanham in there for third. Midnight Runner, as I say, I think this race will sort or suit this horse better. But I think Zulu Chief, if you want a nap on the day, that's the one for me.
Fantastic comparisons. Frankel to Zulu Chief. This is why we're here. Martin.
Well, I'm going to disagree with John. Sorry, I think the filly, Would Hey Wonder will beat Zulu Chief. Zulu Chief will go off in front like he did last time. Would Hey Wonder has got so much more pace and turn of foot. I think she'll nab him up the hill. So number 10 at the top with number 2 in second, Zulu Chief. Third will be Rich Glory for Ed Bethel, and fourth will be Midnight Runner.
Nice list. Good to see a little bit of, well, not agreeing necessarily all the way through, but I'm going to go with John. I think Zulu Chief is going to prove the absolute class act. And cap off what's been a brilliant season so far, number 2, Zulu Chief for me. Race 3 that we're going to be looking at comes Saturday, which is a big World Pool day, and it does concentrate largely on the fillies. We've got a Premier Fillies Handicap to enjoy. 2,400 metres is the trip, and unlike the first couple of races we've talked about, they will be facing that soul bend. It should be a good race. Looking forward to this. Big prize money. We've got 9 runners who have been declared for the race, and a few of these are just bubbling under the surface. They might just be getting better. Cloudbreaker heads them. The 97 rated Cloudbreaker at the top. He's had a bit of a break. The Irish runner Vera Verto is there long ago. Queen Emma, who is the mount of Frankie Dettori, who's in month 10 of his farewell tour for retirement. Davina Grace is there. Decoration. Blue Missile. Sid Zanny. Shazam is there as well. Right, let's have a look back at July course form from July, 77 days prior to this race. And Cloudbreaker's second, John, and a good second behind a real class act in the form of Novakai.
Yeah, she is definitely the class horse in the race. Don't worry about that. But the 2 races she's run well in, the King George V Handicap at Ascot and this race here, were both heavily inclined towards closers. She had a really strong gallop to aim at Ascot, and then here it was probably the ground as well. It was plus the strong gallop, which was helping that. Slightly concerned. Vera Verto's in the race, so she will go forward. But if she's going to be out the back and being played late, she's going to need 1 or 2 things to fall in her way. The fact that she is the class horse will help. It is a good piece of form. You're absolutely right. She goes in the numbers for me, but I've got something a bit more prominent in the run I think will go better.
We'll come to that, but I know you like Cloudbreaker.
I do. She's a class act. She's that was second in a listed race we've just seen, and she's got course form. She's run well at Newmarket, and if you go back a couple of runs, she was only 2.5 lengths behind Warm Heart at Newbury. She drops in grade. I know she's a closer, but there's pace in the race. I think Cloudbreaker's. I think she wins.
OK. I wonder, Martin, if Davina Grace, who is going through everything well at the moment, she keeps winning, Davina Grace, whether she's a big threat in your mind?
I think she's going to be a help to Cloudbreaker because I think she's a confirmed front runner. She likes the front run, and we see her winning here. And she's really game filly. She's stepping up in grade and she's improving. But like I say, she's stepping up where other horses like Cloudbreaker are stepping back down in class. Yeah,
the first 2 in this race were the first 2 the whole way. They've come on 108%, so it's a sit sprint, as the Aussies would say. So that's definitely helped her. She's gone up from 80 to 87 in this little sequence of good runs that she's been having. The handicapper will catch up with her at some point. I've got her in the numbers, but I think she's going to struggle to win. The
Irish horse is interesting, is she not, John? Vera Verto, the presence of her alone here.
Yeah, because of the fact that she will definitely go forward. She was sharp in the early stages of the Listowel race. She went hard in the race prior to that as well. So this was a very good effort to win. It was on very, very soft ground. It's obviously going to be a slightly different, or more than a slightly different surface on Saturday afternoon. I think she's still improving. I think she's got a bit upside to her. She's not going to go on top for me, but as Martin has suggested, if you're going to get it heavily involved in Cloudbreaker, you want a bit of pace to aim at, and she will definitely provide some of that.
Yeah, again, as the same as Davina Grace. I think she's going to help set the race up for Cloudbreaker. She's a good, solid filly, this Vera Verto. I think she'll be in the 3 for sure. But you look on this day that the jockey has to play to her strengths, and that is all stamina. She stays well.
Let's have a look at Queen Emma, who will be Frankie Dettori's mount for William Haggis. Winning at Goodwood at the back end of August, has since gone to Donny, of course, as well, Martin. This was success over Madame Ambassador, who we will have seen already by that point. She runs in the first race at Newmarket on Saturday.
Yeah, as I said earlier, this is she's won here quite well at Goodwood, and she likes to close up a little bit. She likes to sit just behind the leaders, but she's got a really nice way of going. And I think she's quite well handicapped still. She was probably unlucky to get beat last time at Doncaster. She was sat too far back on a slow pace, on slow ground. So there's more improvement to come with this filly, but does lack a turn of foot.
Yeah, I thought she ran really well at Doncaster last time. We can't see that. The 2 runs prior to that are interesting. This Goodwood run was quite a slowly run race. The one at Lingfield was a real end-to-end gallop, and she came through that nicely as well. So she's versatile. I think she's still got plenty of upside to her. I think 89, the handicap mark off which she runs, is quite generous, and I've got her on top. I think she'll go very well.
Oh, I love it, because your selections are next. So we've got her on top, but who's going to chase her home?
Well, I've got Queen Emma on top. I've got Cloudbreaker in there for second. She's the obvious class horse, but she does have to give weight all round as well. Vera Verto in there for third and Davina Grace for fourth.
Cloudbreaker on top for me. She's a class filly. She's stepping down in grade, and she's going to get the fast pace she needs. I think Vera Verto will finish second. Queen Emma will improve on her running and finish third, and Long Ago will finish fourth.
Martin, I am with you. The top-rated filly in the race, to see the Stars filly, Cloudbreaker, it is for me. She's had a bit of a break, but I hope she's going to return with a bang. Race 4 at Newmarket this Saturday is the Group 1 centrepiece of the card. It is the Sun Chariot Stakes. It's run for the filly and mares. It's a 1,600-metre straight test. It's the same course and distance, of course, as the 2,000 and 1,000 guineas that we would have previewed and talked about earlier on in the year. And it's been won by some very, very good fillies, understandably so, for the race and the grades. Right, these are the horses that run. We've got 8 declared runners, which is great. Runners from 3 different countries. Goldana comes from Ireland. Heredia is getting better all the time. Inspiral is top class. Marquise de Sévigné represents France. Random Harvest is there. Roman Mist is there. Coppice, and the other Irish runner, that's Meditate for Aidan O'Brien and for Ryan Moore. Can't wait for this, because it's a drawing together of horses from different countries, some very classy horses, not least Inspiral, who is top draw, John, in her own right. This was her success earlier in France, earlier on in the season, her 4th Group 1.
Yeah, I mean, she's rated 118, so she's the best of these on that metric. She's got a lovely ride from Frankie Dettori at Deauville, in the sense that she always gets out slowly, this horse, which is a problem. She did have a nice strong gallop to aim at, but he managed to get her towards the right part of the track without conceding too much ground in the process, and she went on to win very nicely. My problem with her is that she does give you a problem at the gate if you're a punter, and if there's not going to be much pace in this race, that could be tricky. She's not one for me to be taking a very short price about, despite the fact she's a 4-time Group 1 winner, and that French horse alongside her, which we'll be talking about soon, is very interesting.
What about Inspiral?
Oh, well, we're going to disagree again, John. She's the class act in the race. I mean, she's four times a Group 1 winner, last time against Colts. I know she can be a little bit slowly away, but she's always done that. There's only 8 runners, plenty of room at Newmarket. She's a class act, and she recovered really well last time, winning at Jack Lamar. She had that tough race with Paddington in the Sussex, but she bounced back, and she always runs well in the autumn.
Would you believe Frankie Dettori's not won this race since 1992? Red slippers for Luca Kimani and Sheikh Mohammed, so we'll see in his farewell year whether he can win it again. Since then, John, the French have won it a load of times. Are they going to win it again with Marquise de Sévigné?
Well, this is a really tricky race for me, because Marquise de Sévigné's recent efforts have been excellent, both in the Prix Jean Romanet over the 10 furlongs and prior to that in the Prix Rothschild as well over the 8. On each occasion, she was quite far back in running slowly run races, and she's turned through some really, really good late sectionals. She's definitely at the very peak of her powers, this horse now at the age of 4. My issue is the ground, because most of her running's been done on a soft track. She's probably bred to slightly prefer a soft track as well, but she's definitely a very high quality opponent for Inspiral, and she might be slightly better if the race is a bit muddling and a really good turn of foot is required in the closing stages. So I've marginally gone for her, but there are 1 or 2 caveats.
Very quickly, Alexis Pouchin is going to be having his first ride at Newmarket. We'll be talking about the course track in due course, Martin, but what would be your advice to him?
walk the track, familiarise yourself with the dip. Many horses have come unstuck in that dip.
Yeah.
If it is a muddling pace, like John says, and tactical, Marquise de Sevilla, she has the tactical speed to get out of that, but whether he finds himself in a poor position or not, she's a smart filly and she's improving. She's looking for a hat-trick of Group 1s. I think she'll be second to Inspiral.
Good stuff. Right, let's have a look at some race footage. John, this was at Leopardstown as part of the Irish Champions weekend. This was the Justify Matron Stakes. Meditate finishing fourth, and she'll be thinking, thank God I don't have to see Tahira again.
Well, yes, and this was actually a pretty good run. It was her best run of the season. Unfortunately for her, she hasn't really built upon what she did as a two-year-old. She's a Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf winner, for goodness sake, and she was rated 114 last year. She's now rated 107, so the handicapper thinks she's not the horse that she was. Headgear for the first time here, though. She stayed on well in a strongly run race. She's a definite contender to go pretty well on Saturday afternoon, especially with the Headgear maybe perking her up, Martin.
Yeah, this is something to build on. As we see here in the Michael Tabor colours, Ryan Moore, he's under pressure, he switches out, and she does finish off a race nicely, which she'd failed to do a couple of times this season. Arguably her best run this year. She was closer to here in the Guineas, but she hasn't recaptured that two-year-old form, but that's a step in the right direction with the blinkers on. I think she'll run a place, but she's not quite at her best.
This is a different task altogether, Martin, for Heredia, but what she's been doing recently, I think the performances and also the figures on the clock as well, she's worth a go in this, isn't she?
Absolutely. This is the Atlanta Stakes, a Sandown, it's a Group 3, and she's done really well to win this race because she's pretty far back and it was a very slow run race, and then they've quickened from the front up the hill at Sandown. So she's done really well to come from where she's come from. She's accelerated a couple of times, made the ground up and gone on again to win. So it's a Group 3 win, but she deserves a place in this Group 1 because this is an improved performance.
Yeah, certainly, and she's definitely got to be considered for the exotic best. She's just lugging in a little bit here, but as Martin says, a good turn of foot. You can see Coppice in behind as well. The saddle slipped that day, so you can safely forget that run. Roman missed runs as well, but this was an obviously very good effort, and it'd be interesting to see how she gets on in Group 1 company.
Okay. Coppice down the field that day. She went on to win at Newmarket just the other day. She's been fast-tracked into a Group 1. Interestingly, John, after the race, John Gosden, her part trainer, said, we discussed before the race about the filly continuing her career in the US, where she could make into a Group filly. Well, before she goes to the US, could she be a Group 1 filly in England?
Well, she might be. She's come up the hill pretty well here. She's quite a big lumbering sort, and of course she won the Sandringham Handicap back in the early part of the season, which has worked out very well. But yeah, it seems to be a bit of an afterthought, this race, because even Mike Cattermole here said in commentary she's going to be off, so final race, goodbye to Coppice, and she's back a week later, so I'm not entirely sure what's going on.
I think it is an afterthought. They probably thought she's going to get on a plane soon to the US. Why not run in a Group 1 with 8 runners, ride her for a bit of luck and hope she gets a place?
And you've got to half imagine if you were to ask just about everyone at their training base at Clare Haven, could Coppice beat Inspiral on their best form? It's very doubtful, isn't it?
Very doubtful, yeah.
OK. Right, the 1, 2, 3, 4. John?
Well, I'm going to go with Marquise de Sevilla on top, the 4, over Inspiral, the 3. I mean, it's the obvious Quinella in the race. Meditate, though, could build on what Martin said was a pretty good run last time out, if not necessarily the level of a 2-year-old form. And Heredia is very interesting at this level. So those are the numbers for me, 4, 3, 8 and 2.
Martin?
Inspiral for me. She's going for a 5th Group 1 win, and I think she'll achieve it with Frankie Dettori in the saddle. Could be his 500th winner at Newmarket. Yeah. And I think the French mare, Marquise de Sevilla, will run a gallant 2nd with Heredia in 3rd. And Meditate, I'll run on for 4th.
OK, practice and practice all the way here in the car. It is, as well, the French filly for me, Marquise de Sevilla, to give the nation of France, who have had tremendous success in the race, particularly between 2009 and 2015, winning it a load of times. I think they can win it again. It's Marquise de Sevilla for me.